everyone! This is the 8th week in Ordinary Time. Ordinary Time is green because we are growing in our understanding of Jesus and His teachings. This Wednesday, we will celebrate Ash Wednesday by remembering how without God's Spirit, we are like ashes with no life inside of us. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus used some sayings as he spoke to the people. He said, "Can one blind person lead another blind person? Won't they both fall into a ditch? Are students better than their teacher? But when they are fully trained, they will be like their teacher. You can see the speck in your friend's eye." Look at that tiny little speck. "But you don't notice the log in your own eye. How can you say, 'My friend, let me take the speck out of your eye,' when you don't see the log in your own eye? You show-offs. First get the log out of your own eye. Then you can see how to take the speck out of your friend's eye." A good tree cannot produce bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot produce good fruit. You can tell what a tree is like by the fruit it produces. You cannot pick figs or grapes from thorn bushes. Good people do good things because of the good in their hearts. Bad people do bad things because of the evil in their hearts. Your words show what is in your hearts. The Gospel of the Lord. In this week's Gospel, Jesus reminds us of our limitations through some questions he asks. The first question Jesus asks is whether a blind person can lead another blind person. Well, in some ways, probably blind people can lead other blind people very well. After all, they know what it is like to be blind. But at the same time, they both will be unable to see when there's a ditch in the road and both fall in. We are all blind in some way. Maybe some of us aren't good at seeing what is happy in life even when things are difficult. Maybe some of us aren't good at seeing others' feelings. Maybe some of us aren't good at seeing how God is helping us. These are ways we can be blind to things around us. And if we are leading another person who is also blind in the same way, we can both miss something. Only by working together can we and someone else help each other to see correctly. Do you know what a blind spot is? It is when we can't see something because of the way our head is turned. I have a blind spot right now of what is going on behind me. We need to remember our blind spots when we think of God and recognize we need others who can help us to see. Is there someone who sees things differently than you that can help you with your blind spots? The second question Jesus asks is if a student can be better than their teacher. This reminds us of our blind spots. We need teachers who can help us get better at something we aren't good at. And we need to remember if we're trying to teach someone else that we should make sure our blind spots aren't getting in the way. The third question Jesus asks is if we can try to take a tiny speck out of someone else's eye when we have a log in our own. I never knew I had a log in my eye. But back to the blind spot, a log in our eye would make a really big blind spot. And if we tried to take a tiny speck out of someone else's eye, it would be hard to make sure we saw it correctly. In the same way, we need to be very careful of our own weaknesses and limitations before we try to correct others. We may not see their weakness correctly because of our own. Finally, Jesus reminds us all that like trees, we produce fruit, and fruit tells others who we really are. I'm not sure if I could correctly guess if a tree was an orange tree or an apple tree until I saw if it had oranges or apples on it. In the same way, others can't correctly guess if our heart is good or bad until they see if we are producing good fruit or bad fruit. What is good fruit that we could produce? Kindness, caring for others. What is bad fruit we could produce? Meanness, selfishness. That is how others will know if we have God in our heart. What can we do today to show others we have God in our heart? As we go into Lent, we should remember this week's lessons. We have blind spots, we need others to help us, and we need to remember our weaknesses before only seeing others' weaknesses. Our weaknesses remind us that we are dust without God's Spirit. But with God's Spirit, we can do good things and show others that God's Spirit is in us.